After several recent high-profile squatting cases across the country, many states are passing legislation that would make it illegal for people to stay in people's properties without their permission and have the police be able to arrest those people for that crime. However, in the state of Arizona, the governor believes that this isn't a crime and that they don't want to pass additional squatting laws. So she vetoed a bill that the legislature passed. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News.
Don't take property crime seriously. The governor of Arizona just vetoed a bill that we signed here in Florida so that these squatters could be ejected. What kind of a message does that send, that you're saying you can squat in somebody's house and basically they got to go through a 6-month process?
All right, so I have an interesting story for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Arizona. Now, I know I don't live in Arizona, but I used to. I lived there for 4 years in the Tucson area. Okay, so before I moved out of there, I thought Arizona was, a bastion of property rights, a great place to live. I thought, hey, this is a wonderful place, but I could see the writing on the wall. I could see the writing on the wall as laws were changed, and there was just this push to the left as more and more people, specifically from California, moved into the state and then tried to turn Arizona into a microcosm of the state they just left, the state with the failed policies that they hate. They're trying to turn Arizona into the same thing. And I was like, well, why would you want that? Okay. They see it doesn't work. That's the reason they left in the first place, because the housing costs were too high, because the rules and regulations were too much. And they were looking for a state where things were, just more able to, just where people could live their lives. And you know what? Now they're trying to turn it into California. And, this is a great example of that right here with this governor who vetoed an anti-squatter law. Now, in my mind, I'm like, hey, this is a real problem. This is a real problem. It has real repercussions for property owners out there. And there is no common sense, no amount of logic in my head that would say why this bill shouldn't pass, okay? But she did it anyway, okay? And it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And I'm going to call her out for it because, you know what? There aren't enough people here to say that, hey, this governor, right? She's a piece of garbage. She doesn't care about property rights. It's obvious that she believes more in communism, socialism, giving stuff away to criminals, okay? Garbage. And I hope the people of Arizona, which I used to be a resident of that state myself, I hope the residents of Arizona remove her from office, because this is not the kind of person that you want to be an elected official over your state. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So, I know I haven't gone over the anti-squatting law, right? But I have covered several other states, including Ohio, Florida, Georgia, and even New York, have changed the laws in their states to make it easier for the police to remove squatters. But Arizona, the governor of Arizona, no, we don't want to be able to remove squatters from properties. We want to allow those criminals to stay for as long as possible. What logic, what common sense says that? There's none, okay, other than you are so far gone in your head that you have no common sense whatsoever. That's my thought. Or you're trying to maintain power. We'll see what the article says about the whole situation. So let's get into it. This article is coming from foxnews.com, and it says Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs vetoes a bipartisan bill to combat squatting and election bills. So this was a bipartisan bill. This wasn't just something that was being pushed by the more conservative Republicans, okay? This is something that both Democrats and Republicans agreed upon, okay? And this is something that everyone should agree upon because property rights are written into the Constitution of the United States, okay? So let's see what the article says. Democratic Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has vetoed a bill aimed at strengthening the rights of homeowners looking to evict squatters from their property. Despite the bill being passed in bipartisan fashion, and as a wave of squatting cases continue to terrify homeowners across the country. The bill, SB 1129, would have permitted a homeowner to request law enforcement to immediately remove a squatter from their property, had the squatter invaded a home and unlawfully claimed a right to live there. Police, acting on an owner's affidavit, would have had the permission to immediately go in and have someone evicted. So, what's the problem with that right there? Okay, they're like, oh, well, maybe there might be one or two bad people who are lying about it in order to get a real tenant out. And I'm like, we're keep in mind that the person has to swear on an affidavit. And if you lie on that affidavit, you can be criminally charged. That's already the law. That's already the law. So there's already laws in place to protect, against the property owner from, lying on a sworn affidavit in order to get somebody out that has a right to be there. Okay. And we're not talking about those cases anyway. We're talking about the cases of people who have zero right to be there. Say that you're a landlord, such as I am, right? You own a property and you during just normal tenant turnover, your previous tenant leaves, you have maybe a 1 month period in there where your property is empty while you do all the updates and repairs and you get a new tenant up in there, right? But you come back to your empty house and guess what? There's somebody living in there and they have a fake lease that you didn't sign, a fake lease that you didn't sign, and they swear, oh yeah, I signed it with Bob and I really am here legitimately. And I'm like, no, you didn't sign it with Bob. Or maybe you did, but it doesn't matter. It's not your property. You don't have any right to be here. And you're the unfortunate victim who has to lose. But according to the law, now I have to go through a months-long civil eviction process and you get to stay there for free? That's dumb, right? And the burden of proof is on me to prove that you're not a tenant, instead of the burden of proof being upon you to prove that you are a tenant and not just a common criminal. So, yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. With the trespassing laws, everything, it should be very, very easy to prove who has a right to be in a property and who does not. A legitimate tenant would easily be able to pull out a lease and say, hey, here, look at this. This is his signature on here. He's the landlord. Yeah, I'm not a squatter. But obviously, this governor is too dumb to figure out that, hey, oh, well, you know what? Some people are actually scammers and might not be 100% honest and be taking advantage of the situation. It boggles my mind that we have a bipartisan bill, put forth by both parties, and a situation that definitely has a huge impact upon property owners, but you're going to veto it. And she put her reasoning in this article, and let me continue with it. But Hobbs nixed the bill on Tuesday in a short letter to the president of the state Senate. Today, I vetoed Senate Bill 1129, Hobbs wrote. This bill fails to leverage existing legal mechanisms, respect the due process rights of lawful tenants, and minimize unintended consequences such as victims of domestic violence. And let me break that down there, because that doesn't make any sense at all. Now, I watched Steve Leto's video. He's a lawyer, okay, and he goes over some of the same topics I do, right? I watched his, and he couldn't even make any sense of this, and he's a lawyer, okay? What do I, as a landlord, I'm trying to make sense of this, and I'm like, okay, so fails to leverage existing legal mechanisms. What legal mechanisms? The legal mechanism now is somebody with a fake lease, you have to go through the civil eviction process, pay a lawyer, wait, 3 months or whatever to be able to get this, criminal up out of your property. That's not a legal mechanism. That's a failing system. That's the whole point of this law, was to get rid of that. Okay? Like, I would love it if somebody just moved on up into this governor's house and just pulled out a fake lease and be like, all right, now you go through the eviction process. You said that there were plenty of legal mechanisms in place to get me out of here. So you go down to the courthouse and see how long it takes you to get me out of here. No, it won't be immediate because you said that wasn't necessary. I would love somebody to do that, but I know. I'm just joking. I'm not actually serious. Don't mess with politicians. Don't harass people. You know, if you want to do anything, vote her out of office. That's the best way to get your revenge on a moron. The second thing they said, it doesn't respect the due process rights. Yeah, it does respect the due process rights. All we really have to do is give the person notice that they are in violation of the law. That is your due process right there. Okay? And then minimize consequences for victims of domestic violence. So I'm just trying to figure out how what this has to do with domestic violence. So you're saying that if a person who is a domestic violence victim decides to go squat in a property, then they have the right to stay there rent free? Is that what you're saying? Because that doesn't make any sense. Okay? This is just a bunch of garbage. And what this really comes down to is she didn't like this law. She didn't like this law because she has these tenant right groups in her back pocket, right? Or she's in the back pocket of the tenant right groups. I'm sorry. I got that kind of backwards. And that's where her voter constituent comes from. A bunch of people who basically want government handouts. They want government handouts. They told her, you better veto this or we're not going to reelect you. That's the only thing that this could possibly have to do with, because this doesn't make sense. This is idiotic, and I feel like it's corruption. I feel like it is corruption because you are basically giving the criminals, that's right, you're giving criminals more rights than you're giving the property owners in the state of Arizona. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off. So yeah, let's get this lady out of office. Okay? That's my opinion. Vote her out.